Welcome into Tailgate Thursday for week number 3 of the 2024 college football season. My name is David Morrison from the Vol Society, here to bring you the upcoming college football games this weekend featuring our Vols, the SEC, and games across the nation. We began with our beloved Tennessee Volunteers back home after a 51-10 victory over NC State and Charlotte this past weekend. Now they've returned to take on the Kent State Golden Flashes for a 7:45 p.m. Eastern Time kickoff on the SEC Network. Dylan Sampson leading the SEC in rushing yardage at 256 yards. And also Tennessee has the number 1 rushing attack in the SEC as they lead that category. Also, of course, Nico Iamaleava still putting up pretty good numbers despite the 2 picks, including one went to the house last week for NC State, but still looking very good. Meanwhile, for Kent State, just been a disastrous season so far. Lost 23-17 to FCS school St. Francis of Pennsylvania. Last week never took the lead in that whole entire game and lost 23-17. Not expecting much for this game, but hey, we're going to cover it here on Tailgate Thursday as Kent State takes on Tennessee in that one. All right, let's move on to the SEC. High noon on Fox. We head to Madtown, Madison, Wisconsin. The number 4 team in the country, the Alabama Crimson Tide, taking on the Wisconsin Badgers. Jam Miller last week's 15 carries, 140 yards, and a touchdown to win over South Florida, which they ended up scoring 28 unanswered to seal that win up. It was kind of a struggle for Bama against the Bulls for the second year in a row. Meanwhile, for Wisconsin, this is really kind of the first time the nation gets to see the Badgers. They've played a couple of easy opponents and got a couple wins. But former Miami Hurricane quarterback Tyler Van Dyke is the starting quarterback for the Wisconsin Badgers. So can Luke Fickell pick up a signature win at home against Alabama? We shall see Saturday at noon. Or if not, it might be Caleb DeVore and the Tide continuing to roll. College game day and the entire nation will be in Columbia, South Carolina this weekend for a noon kickoff on ABC as the surging South Carolina Gamecocks 2-0 on the year, taking on the 16th ranked LSU Tigers coming in this contest at 1-1. For South Carolina, boy, you talk about a team that kind of did a complete 180. I mean, this team, South Carolina, in week 1 struggled to pick up a win over Old Dominion, but then they just turned around and went on the road and dominated Kentucky on their home field, won 31-6. Nick Emmanuel Worthy had a pick 6 in that game. Lenora Sellers, 2 touchdown passes in the win over Kentucky. Meanwhile, for LSU, kind of been a struggle so far this season. Lost in week 1 in Las Vegas to USC. And then this past Saturday at home, struggled against Nichols, but ended up getting the win 44-21. But it was kind of a back and forth battle for about 3.5 quarters, if you will. But, we shall see. Can Shane Beamer and the Gamecocks pull a big upset win over LSU? Or, LSU pull a road win? We shall find out this Saturday. 12:45 Eastern Time on the SEC Network. We head to Columbia, Missouri. One of 2 top 25 matchups this weekend. We'll preview the other one in just a minute as we go across the nation. But number 24 Boston College heads to Como to take on number 6 Mizzou. Thomas Castellanos, 6 touchdown passes on the year for the Eagles, and Bill O'Brien, like I said, already got this team in the top 25. Of course, a lot of it had to do with defeating Florida State, which, take it for what it's worth. But we shall see. Meanwhile, for Missouri, that entire offense is back. Brady Cook, Nate Noel, Luther Burden III, Theo Weiss Jr. Missouri's putting up a lot of points. Granted, they took on the likes of a Murray State and a Buffalo, so this is their first true big test of the season. Could be an interesting game. We shall see what happens as Boston College meets Mizzou. 3:30 on ESPN. A lot of Vol fans are going to keep their eye on this game. Number 15 Oklahoma, 2-0 on the year, taking on Tulane. The Green Wave. Obviously, this is Tennessee's opponent next week, as I mentioned Oklahoma as the opponent. Jackson Arnold on the year, 315 yards passing, 6 touchdowns for him. Meanwhile, for Tulane, lost a heartbreaker at home last Saturday to Kansas State. 34-27 was the final score. Tulane, one of these schools that has upset teams in the past, and they've been to a couple of New Year's Six bowl games. This is a possible college football playoff team as far as representing the group of 6 goes. So, hey, we shall see. Like I said, a lot of offense is going to be tuning into this game. It's kind of scouting for next week before the Vols take on the Golden Flashes for a late kickoff. But that's Tulane and Oklahoma. Another 3:30 game on ABC, a must-win game for both of these schools, both at 1-1. Texas A&M at Florida. Obviously, you have one coach that's just starting his first season at his school, and the other one is on the hot seat and getting hotter. Of course, for Texas A&M, picked up a win last week after dropping their first game to Notre Dame. Meanwhile, for Florida, they defeated Stanford. DJ Lagway got the start, the true freshman maybe. Set a freshman record, I do know that. 487 yards passing, 3 touchdowns in the win against Stanford. So a little bit of a highlight there, even though Grant Mertz is still out with the concussion. Looks like Lagway is going to go for the Gators. Must-win game for both of these schools trying to salvage their season. Obviously, Florida is in more of panic mode than Texas A&M at this point, but we shall see what happens. The Aggies and the Gators meeting at the Swamp Saturday afternoon. Our final SEC game we're going to preview, the Georgia Bulldogs, 2-0 in the year, number 1 in the country, heading to Lexington to take on the Kentucky Wildcats for a 7:30 p.m. kickoff on ABC. Carson Beck, 520 yards, 7 touchdowns so far this season. As I mentioned, this is Kirby Smart's best offense he's had. Meanwhile, for Kentucky, man, just an ugly performance all the way around. In that 31-6 loss to South Carolina, Brock Vandagriff, the former Georgia quarterback, now Kentucky, just had a pitiful performance in that game last week against South Carolina. Now he's taking on his former school. What's going to happen in this one? We shall find out. 7:30 on ABC is the Dogs and the Cats battle it out on a Saturday night. Could get ugly. We shall see. All right, let's go across the nation. We'll get you out of here. Friday night on Fox, an 8 o'clock game. This is a Big 12 game now. Number 20, Arizona, taking on number 14, Kansas State. This is the other top 25 matchup of the weekend outside of Boston College and Missouri. Teatora McMillan, one of the best wide receivers in the nation for Arizona. Noah Fifita, hope I said that name right. These are some hard names to pronounce, but a very good Arizona team. First-year head coach they got is Jed Fish. The former coach is at Washington, but still got some talent. Could win. This is a must-win game for Zona. Meanwhile, for Kansas State, Avery Johnson went to New Orleans last week, and the Kansas State Wildcats beat Tulane. We already mentioned that earlier. Big-time matchup. Kind of a little sneaky game if you're coming in for your high school Friday night game that you may go to, trying to wind down. This might be an exciting fourth quarter by the time you get to the house and settle in. We shall find out as the Wildcats meet the Wildcats on a Friday night on Fox. And then 3:30 on Fox Saturday, the Civil War. Usually this game is played the weekend of Thanksgiving, but because of conference realignment, particularly of Oregon, it's now met, in the third week in September, if you will. But, the Ducks have had a very interesting 2 weeks. A lot of people had this team winning the Big Ten, but 2 teams they've struggled with against 2 teams from the state of Idaho. The Idaho Vandals in week 1, they barely pulled it out 24-17, and then last week against a Boise State team, which is good, a team that tends to upset teams, obviously. But they end up pulling that out 37-34. Dylan Gabriel, he's got some good passing yardage, but just doesn't have a lot of explosive plays. So we shall see. Meanwhile, for Oregon State, obviously representing the Tupac Conference, the former Pac-12. Okay, it's not called the Tupac Conference. We call it the Tupac Conference here. But point is, the only 2 schools in the Pac-12 Oregon State and Washington State. But Jam Griffin, a great running back for Oregon State and the Beavers. Should be interesting. Could be an upset alert game the way Oregon's played the last couple of weeks. We shall find out Saturday night in Corvallis, or really Saturday afternoon to be exact. And finally, a bonus game on Tailgate Thursday. We head to Johnson City, Tennessee, arguably the biggest game in the history of ETSU, as they welcome in the number 2 team in the FCS poll, the Bison of North Dakota State. Obviously the biggest game in the brand new ETSU football stadium, the Willie B. Green Jr. Stadium. Of course, the mini dome is still there, but they don't play football in there anymore. But yeah, I wanted to give a shout out to ETSU. I know we have a lot of our Vol Society followers who went to school at ETSU and graduated there, and or even some Vol fans that live in the Johnson City area. I think this, I mean, as much as I love our Vols always playing every week, this is not the Tennessee-Kent State is not the most exciting game this weekend. The most exciting football game in the state of Tennessee this weekend is North Dakota State and ETSU, both coming in at 1-1. Cam Miller had 3 total touchdowns against Colorado. And, you know, hey, could be an upset brewing. We shall see. It should be a lot of fun, but want to give a shout out to the FCS football. North Dakota State and ETSU, Saturday night, 5:30 p.m. Eastern Time on ESPN+. That's going to wrap it up for Tailgate Thursday. Enjoy the college football action, and we'll see you right back here next week. Until next time, this is David Morrison.